Hi there, YouTube. This is video number 2 for me. In my first video, I talked about the term God and how it's used generally by both believers and non-believers. And that is as a name or in reference to deity, but in fact, God is simply a term that speaks to authority. And that creates a lot of confusion. Uh, this video deals with skepticism and worldviews. And why do we hold the worldviews we do? That's something I've always been interested in and curious about. I am generally very skeptical. In fact, my wife thinks I'm way too skeptical. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anyone, ever. Yes, I am a Christian, and yes, I know God personally. I don't believe in God. I know God, and that's the difference. And I think that as all the believers that are out there that have not personally encountered God, they need to get busy and get on that. But what about the materialists? What do you hang your hat on? How do you look at Christians and poke fun at them and say, "Ha, you believe in Santa Claus"? I mean, you guys believe in an Oort cloud. You talk about it like it's real, like it's an actual thing. Oh, nobody's ever seen it. It's a great mystery, but it's out there. We know it's out there. It has power, right? It has power to explain. That's why we know it's there. That sounds like the people who call themselves Christians. There's a great power out there, and it explains a lot. Uh-huh. Or the multiverse, something that you can never find evidence for. Why do these things exist in your worldview, and why don't you question them? One thing that's really always bothered me is, where did this stuff come from? Don't you ever wonder that? Where did all this stuff come from? So at one point in time, all the stuff was crushed into a space smaller than an atom. That seems unlikely to me. That seems incredibly unlikely to me. But okay, let's accept that that's a possibility, regardless of how amazing it is. Where did it come from? Is it eternal? You see, at some point, something has to be eternal. Something simply has to be eternal. Now, in your worldview, you have all this material that's stuffed into something smaller than an atom that explodes and then becomes a Chevy. Better than a Chevy. Way more refined. A Chevy's, come see, come saw. But in terms of the way the universe is balanced, the laws that govern it, the precision of those laws is impossible. It's simply impossible. So the numbers are so high that instead of trying to explain it, you just came up with a multiverse to wave it away. Oh yeah, there's so many universes out there that one of them was bound to look like our universe and have the laws that our universe has. And in our universe, luckily, not only do we have those universal laws, but life appeared out of a muddy pond. It just came together chemically and boop, popped into existence. And then it started to grow and become more complicated through evolution. And then it became us, and we became conscious. Consciousness became a thing from life. I mean, I look at all this and I'm like, what? Do you understand how ridiculous all that sounds? And if you can accept all that at a wave of the hand, why is it difficult for you to believe in a God? If all that can happen, then certainly God can happen. What's bothering you, I think, is the fact that God's eternal. Miracles, you just don't like the miracles. You don't mind God as a being, but you but you don't like the miracles that go with it. And I've seen miracles in my life personally, and I don't see why that would be so difficult for you. I mean, in science, you'll say, well, we don't know yet, but we will understand it someday. Um, why can't you accept that the real power in creation is the mind? Even our mind, not just the mind of God, but the mind He gave us, seems to have great power. I mean, I spent a lot of time watching double slit experiments and stuff like that. I watch a lot of science programs. I watch at least as many science programs as I do stuff on Christianity. And I'm far more skeptical of Christianity than I am of the science because it's observed. If you, in my opinion, that's what science is, a thing that you observe. I don't think it's a thing you guess at. Now, Darwin and evolution, that's really just a guess. Darwin wasn't there at the beginning, so he doesn't know. He's trying to explain what he sees from what he sees. He's trying to reach back. Um, Stephen Meyer has done a far better job of explaining what we see than Darwin did by intelligent design. Too close to God. Here's the thing. Maybe God exists, maybe God doesn't exist from your perspective. I mean, I personally know he exists, but let's suppose that's still a maybe, and for you, it is. How are you going to know the truth if you don't go looking? How are you going to know the truth if you just exclude the truth at the outset? How are you going to know the truth when you don't even look at your own worldview and critique it skeptically? Because you sure don't. If you use the same level of skepticism to look at Christianity, for example, as you do at the Oort cloud, you'd all be Christians already because you have not looked at the Oort cloud. You just accept this narrative at face value. It's somebody's word. And the same with the multiverse. Maybe that's not quite so commonly accepted. Certainly evolution. Oh my goodness, you guys are really entrenched in that one. That one drives me crazy. Here's why. Every single generation is less than the generation that was before. There's a couple of hundred mutations. My kids have more mutations to deal with in their existence than I do, and I have more than my parents, and they had more than their parents, and so on, all the way back. I've tried to figure out exactly how many mutations we're looking at. How do you know it's a mutation to begin with? And how many generations does that make for mutations? Those are questions that I'd like answers to. I haven't been able to find them, but I guarantee you this. My wife had a Chihuahua, and that dog was inbred. Like it has serious consequences. That breed has serious consequences because you breed it down into that breed, but you create a bottleneck, genetic bottleneck for that breed, and eventually it will simply die out. It will cease to exist because it cannot continue to exist. And that's the truth everywhere with evolution. You don't see evolution going up. You always see evolution going down. Sure, we can breed dogs and we can look for specific qualities or plants or other things. But when we do it, we always constrict that what we create. It always gets smaller. It always becomes less. The potential, we use up its potential for a purpose, to reach an end. That's what evolution does. So I'll agree that, evolution change over time. Yeah, we can see that happen. We can help that happen. But the reality is it always ends up at a dead end. It doesn't begin anything. And then there's abiogenesis. What? How does something chemical become a first cell? There is zero. I mean, be realistic. There just simply is no, there's zero evidence. You haven't solved a single problem for it. And and that's with a bunch of smart guys in a lab. I've often wrote comments that said, give them a living cell. Give them a living cell to start with. And then give them 100,000 scientists. Give them every scientist on the planet, every kind of scientist you can imagine, include them. And then give them the best computers and all the money. And then take the life away from that cell, whatever it is. You don't even know what that life is. I I think I might have a guess. You might have a guess, but we don't know. Take that life spark away from that cell and then let those scientists bring it back to life. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. And you think you're gonna construct it from ground zero. No, never. Please look at the structure. Be critical in your thinking. Be a skeptic. Be a real skeptic. Not one that's, skeptical of everything else but your worldview. Be skeptical of your worldview. I guarantee you, I have been skeptical of my worldview. I encountered God when I was 15 years old, and I have spent the last 50 years being skeptical. And time and time and time and time and time again, both by evidence and apologetics and by personal experience, my worldview is confirmed. And your worldview, which I'm equally skeptical of, smashed on the rocks, baby. It just doesn't happen. It never happens. All right. Thanks, YouTube. See you later.